The Strangers Chapter 3 is the conclusion, hopefully, in the newest Strangers trilogy that I think is a waste of everyone's time and will go down as one of the worst trilogies of all time. Now, I could stop the review there and not waste everyone's time like this trilogy has, but I feel like I need to add a little bit more, conversation to it and kind of make you truly understand why this film is terrible and why this trilogy that they have done is even worse. I'll just kind of start with like what my kind of connection is to this Strangers franchise. Obviously, the original film when it came out in 2008 was a huge hit. It was a surprise hit. It took everyone by storm at the time because I felt like it was a very creepy, atmospheric horror film. That didn't really give you any backstory or anything like that to the stranger, so made it that much more creepy and that much more unnerving. But if I'm being honest, my love for that original film has dwindled over the years. I did see it when I was really young, so obviously, I had a very impressionable young mind, and that movie did leave an impact on me at that time. But as the older I've gotten, I have had more issues with that film and have actually liked it less and less the more I have watched it. Now, I did like the follow up sequel that we got in 2018, The Strangers Prey at Night. I know it is very different and not at all similar in tone to that original film, but I did really love the aesthetic and the vibe that that film had, and the fact that it went towards being more of a slasher film than like a home invasion movie that we got in 2008. So when I heard that they were kind of rebooting the franchise and filming a trilogy back to back to back and releasing them all in short order, I thought that was a pretty cool and interesting concept. To me, that told me that, hey, they actually have a pretty good story here to tell if they're going to, green light and shoot three movies back to back. There must be something interesting to tell here, right? You would assume. But obviously, I got to see, The Strangers Chapter 1. That movie was garbage. Complete carbon copy of the original film, but done much more poorly. And then you got The Strangers Chapter 2 last year, which I felt like was pretty much a nothing burger of a movie. Didn't really offer anything. Felt like an extended chase sequence that was turned into a film. That had a really weird boar fight scene in it and became the Revenant all of a sudden. So far in this trilogy, I think the first two movies were terrible. So my expectations going into chapter 3 were, okay, well, if those two movies were terrible and they have any sort of resemblance of a good story that they came to the table with, to, start the process and to get these three films made, we're probably going to get them in chapter 3. So even though I have an idea that this movie's probably going to be bad, I thought maybe, hey, we'll get some of the interesting ideas that this whole trilogy was conceived under in this final chapter, right? But not only is that not the case, I am here to confirm to you that the entire concept of this trilogy was a gigantic waste of everybody's time. But before I go into everything that I do not like about this film, I figured I could talk about, the very small amount of things that I thought were okay in this film. I do think this film looks good. I think it was pretty well lit. I think it was shot well. I think, from a visual standpoint, it is not a ugly film to look at. Which I think is an improvement from where we started in The Strangers Chapter 1. I know this film and the second film kind of got some reshoots, which is why this whole trilogy took a little bit longer than it was originally supposed to come out. So I don't know if that was a part of it, but I do think that this looks a little bit better than what we got in those first two films. I also think in this film that we actually get more violence from the strangers than what we got in the first two films. That was definitely one of my biggest pet peeves about those first two films, is I felt like the kills and the strangers themselves and how many lives they took was very, very tame. And while it's not super crazy in this movie, right, I don't think the body count is that high, we do get a little bit more here when it comes to the kills. And some of the creativity with the kills is a little bit better this go around. I also think that the main stranger, the guy with like the scarecrow mask, the actor who portrays him, I think he does a good job here. I don't think he's given all that much when it comes to writing and story, but I think in the moments, where you get him, I think he does a good enough job, even though, they, for some reason, like to keep it a secret up until this film, of which one he is, and I thought it was the most obvious thing in the world from the last two films. But I think, with what he was given, I think he does a good enough job. And, I think if he was cast, maybe as a killer in another horror movie with a little bit better of a script, I think we could get a good performance from him. I think he's capable and has enough potential to go on and do other things. And that's pretty much it for my positives. To start off my negatives, I want to say I believe Madeline Pesh is a really, really good actor and really, really has a good career ahead of her. I think that she was the only good things about those first two films. And what they do with her character here gives her almost no room or any lines of dialogue to even put in any type of good performance. So I think that is the one aspect of this film that is much worse than the first two films. You just limit what she can do. And when she is the best part of your films, that is one of the most baffling and stupid decisions that I think I have seen in some time. And not only does the film not really give her any dialogue, it really just gives her character almost nothing to do. The events that occur in this film, she is a part of, but she really has nothing to do. She basically acts emotionalist and has no dialogue throughout the entire film. So I don't understand the decision making to, take this character on this arc. We're going to talk a little bit, about in a little bit what I think that they were trying to convey with the story, even though I think they failed miserably at it. But what they do with her character specifically really just did not work for me whatsoever. And again, this is another film, now 0 for 3, at feeling a complete waste of time. I don't think there was anything to justify this new trilogy of films being 3 movies. I mean, between these 3 films, there's maybe a full movie and about an hour worth of actual quality storytelling and quality ideas that they could have really just done in one mega movie. But they decided to be greedy, and they decided to try to, make excessive numbers of ticket sales by, dragging this out into a trilogy. And by doing that, I actually think they're going to hurt themselves in the long run, because now I think that the Strangers brand is so damaged from these 3 films and the way that it dragged out like it did, that they're actually not going to be able to really make anything in the future that is going to have people excited. Whereas I think if they would have just released like one long film and it wasn't great, that would have been only one try, so we could have at least, started from scratch and went somewhere else. My next negative is really one that has been, a complaint that I've had in the first 2 films, is that this movie is not great at creating tension or any type of scares. There is no point in this movie where I was on the edge of my seat. There is no point where they effectively did a good job at creating tension. I won't go into spoilers, but there's a sequence in the third act that I felt like should have been a triumphant and winning moment. And it just doesn't feel like that at all, because the way they execute things in this movie just don't build tension, don't build suspense, don't build dread. There's just nothing about this movie that elicits emotions from you and this trilogy as a whole. And then also, too, I can literally pick out the scenes that I felt like they intentionally created just to pad out the runtimes in this trilogy. I mean, there is scenes where they're just walking. Nothing's happening. They're just walking. They're looking around. Nothing is going on, and it's the most boring thing in the world. Even in the third act, I kind of talked about it in a particular scene where I felt like there should have been build up to this moment. Madeline Pesh's character is kind of just strolling along, just walking. Nothing's really going on. We're moving slowly. Nothing's happening, and it's just boring. I don't know what we did, what we're doing here, or what the goal here was of this film, but this shouldn't have been a trilogy. We shouldn't have gotten this far without someone saying, "Hey, this is not a good idea. Let's try something different." And one thing I just cannot stand about this movie and this trilogy as a whole is that none of the characters act like real human beings. Genuinely, I don't know what the, filmmakers here believe that people act like, even in small, towns like the one in this film. But whatever this movie is not how real human beings act. And I know it was probably done to just throw red herrings into it. Because you get a scene with other characters that earlier on in the first and the second movie were much weirder, who are now acting normal because the red herring has kind of been lifted. And I don't understand that logic. I don't know what they thought. I want to know what the thought process was about making everyone just act so strangely and like serial killers. And when everyone acts creepy, no one is the killer essentially, because it's like, well, everyone's just acting weird as fuck. It could literally be anyone, but that doesn't create the tension in the way that I think that they thought it would. And again, that's a lot of these things that I'm ranting about and I have problems with this film are just inherently problems with the trilogy as a whole. So, I don't know what they could have really done to fix it, but it just didn't work whatsoever. And then the main selling point about why this trilogy exists is that we're supposedly going to get answers about who the strangers are, why they do what they do, who is Tamara, and technically, yeah, we got some of the answers to those questions in these movies. But A, who the hell was asking these questions? Who actually wanted answers to these questions? And you didn't really even answer them all. There's still a couple, I think, that were left dangling that probably could have used better explanation. Which, in a movie, if you want to leave that a little bit ambiguous, fine. Once you're in the third movie of a planned trilogy, I wonder why the hell we weren't spending more time trying to answer these things and explore these things a little bit more. And instead, we're having all these boring sequences where everyone seems like they're in slow motion and not really doing anything. Just baffling decision making all around here. And to me, I think that just confirms that the idea and the concept of this trilogy, exploring the origins of the strangers, finding out who they are, knowing what their backstory is, I think that's just an ill-conceived idea, and it was from the beginning, because everything about those first two movies that everybody loves is the fact that they're just strangers, and you don't know who they are. You don't know why they're targeting people. That added to the mystery. So when you pull up the mask and uncover all these things, it makes it significantly less interesting. And again, this is not a franchise that I was a huge fan of. I was not that big of a fan of the first film. I liked it less and less the more I watched it. I did like the second one. I think that is still the best of the franchise, but even that one, not perfect, not, an all-time great film. So when you take this trilogy and this concept and you take what you already had and you make it worse, what are we doing here? Why are we wasting our time? Why are we doing this? And the only thing I could think of is that they just wanted money. They didn't want to actually put in creative ideas and a creative story and make something worthwhile. They just wanted to slap the Strangers IP onto something and make those dollars. And that was it. And you can feel it here because this is a very creatively bankrupt trilogy and a waste of mine, yours, and everyone's time. But with even all that being said, I talked about it earlier with Madeline Pesch's character. They tried to introduce kind of like a Stockholm Syndrome storyline here where, she's so numb from everything that she's been with. But by taking out your most interesting character and putting her in a place where she can't improve the quality of the movie, and then the way that you set up that storyline and you don't even really make things clear as to what's going on, what the motivations are here, what both sides are doing, like what are the strangers really doing, what is her character doing, it completely fails in execution. So it's like, yeah, I was right that I thought pretty much all the good ideas that they had going into these movies was saved for part 3, but then we get to part 3 and it's executed terribly. So it doesn't even feel like you're getting a satisfying payoff after watching the first 2 pieces of shit. And my God, the character motivations in this movie were just absurd. I mean, you have no idea why anyone's doing what they're doing in this film. I mean, especially the strangers. Like, you have no clue. Like, do they still want to kill Madeline Pesch's character? Does he, is he in love with her? Is there a weird, like, sexual romance thing here? Is Madeline Pesch, like, numb to all this now and turning crazy herself? Or is she, trying to remain low key and, get the time to escape or to kill them? It's like nothing about any motivations in this movie are clear. And, I don't like it when movies obviously beat you over the head with exposition and with information, but when it's the opposite of that and you get nothing, it's hard to, like, understand even what's going on in a basic sense or even care for these characters. So that just I just didn't understand the decision making behind that because I just did not care about what was going on whatsoever. So yeah, guys. I mean, all I can really say at this point is thank God this trilogy's over. I know there was kind of rumors going around on whether or not they were going to do a chapter four, but the box office reports that are coming out, it is Sunday, after the release of this film, and the reports that are coming out is that this movie is going to be a total dud and it's probably going to bomb. Which I'm kind of happy for, to be honest, even though I contributed to it and went and saw it. But I just don't want any more of these movies. I mean, especially from this team that made this trilogy. Like, I'm good. Yeah, maybe in the future if somebody wants to reboot it and bring a different idea or a fresher idea than what we got here, fine. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I mean, this is the most ill-conceived, not even just horror trilogy of all time. I mean, I can't, like, for me, I think this is my vote for the worst trilogy ever because I can't think of another trilogy where literally all three movies are terrible. Like, I genuinely can't. Yeah, you can maybe find some, like, I don't know, like The Hangover, where, like, the first movie is great and then the following two are bad. Or, there's a sandwich sequel in there that's good and the rest are bad, but, like, all three are just duds and just don't work on any level. I can't think of one off the top of my head. It's hard for me to think of one. So, yeah, this gets my vote. Is one of the worst trilogies of all time, and this movie is just a bore to get through. Like, can I artificially say that it's better than the other ones? I mean, maybe. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to definitively say like these are all pieces of shit, and I think they all have their own reasons why they're bad. And they all do like little things that I think are okay, but I mean, not enough to, offset how much terrible there is in these movies. So, like, I don't even know if I would really want to rank them because, like, to me, they're all just equally as bad and equally unenjoyable, and I don't really ever want to watch them again. Um, so yeah, sorry, this is a very negative review. But it is what it is. I've had to live through this trilogy at this point, and I'm very glad it's over. Very glad, if this franchise ever comes back, it's gonna be something different from this because I don't know what the fuck they were thinking here. I will say this is not my worst film of the year so far. I still think Return to Silent Hill is that. I thought that was much worse. For different reasons, right? But I thought that was much worse, but this is not far behind it. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it for me today, guys. Go ahead and comment below. Let me know what you thought. Are you one of the, like, 4 people on Earth who actually liked any of these movies? I mean, if so, comment below. Let me know why you liked it. I obviously will disagree, but, I always love the conversation. I love the back and forth. And what do you think this franchise should do going forward? Do you think they should take some time off? I tend to believe so, just because I think this has done a lot of damage to the brand. So I would like to see it take a little bit of a break. But yeah, comment below. Let me know what you thought. And everyone, have a great night.